Joining me today from London, the United Kingdom, is Chris. Chris is the Executive Vice President in Mastercard. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to Cloudtalks. And I think you brought a few slides along the way, Chris. Is that right?
Yeah, now ready to walk them through and looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, why don't you get going? I'll be in the background and look forward to some really exciting Q&A.
Thanks very much. And morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are watching this presentation. Just want to give you an overview of what we're seeing in payments, how it's affecting travel, and some of the trends that we're seeing moving forward. Look, firstly, within Mastercard, we've had a big focus around the world beyond cash. That's moving people from using cash to digital payments. And it's a win-win for everyone. Consumers, gives you safety, security, and simplicity. For merchants, it provides opportunities of efficiency and building services that help differentiate. And then for governments, it's all about providing sustainable and inclusion solutions for for people in their markets. So fundamentally for us, a foundational element for us is a world beyond cash and moving everyone digital. If you look at recent events, so let's look at COVID and its impact on the travel and tourism sector, and also where we're seeing some of the focus points moving forward. Obviously, as we've all experienced, COVID's had a dramatic impact on the travel and tourism industry. We've seen, obviously, a big compression in the business. But, look, taking a step back and looking at where things are moving from and where we think they're going to go to. We've seen, obviously, a focus for consumers now very much on domestic destinations with the inability to travel. We're expecting to see spend that would have been historically on a international basis now move more into domestic. We're going to see a big focus on health and hygiene for obvious reasons around COVID. Business travel, that's going to change. Take myself, for example. Typically, I would have flown to New York once a week. I'm going to change now. I'm probably going to do one trip every 2 months and then probably do a full week there. I'll still use the same amount of nights, but I'm going to travel less on a plane. And I think that's part of the industry is going to start looking at how we manage around these changing behaviors. And also sustainability we're seeing as a key trend and focus point for consumers. Moving forward, what are we expecting and where do we see the travel and tourism recovery coming from? First and foremost, we're seeing on the accommodation side that growing quicker than the airline side of the business. As I said earlier, the domestic business we think will grow. There's huge demand from consumers for travel. Discretionary spend has been held back because you can't physically spend it. I like to call it cabin fever. I think that people across the board at a leisure side will look to book and travel as soon as they can. And as I said, with the inability to travel internationally or rely on air travel, I think you're going to find the focus on accommodations domestically or inter-region where you can drive or use trains. But a lot of this is all underpinned by the availability of vaccines across the board. And we expect, travel to come back in some form in 2021. And, we're hoping by end of 2022, early 23, in a lot of cases, we're back towards sort of pre-COVID levels. It's a challenging time, there's no doubt about it. But with that, we are seeing changes then in how people interact with the travel industry, how payments are changing, and the reliance on digital channels. And we'll cover more of that as we move forward here. So in terms of some of the trends, as people have had to evolve and change how they pay for things, contactless payments have increased dramatically. It's been a big focus for Mastercard for many years to get people to tap instead of using cash. And I think with the whole focus around hygiene, efficiency, then we've seen a big uptake in contactless transactions. You've also seen, as people have had to rely on buying things online, that e-commerce has grown, and across all categories. And the e-commerce growth has been strong. We've also seen that people have missed some aspects of their daily life. So going to restaurants. I don't know about you, but I'm bored of cooking at home, and I'm representative in that group who are looking forward to being able to go out and visit my favorite restaurant. And then in terms of the travel aspect, we know that 1 in 5 people have missed that, and that supports from our perspective that moving forward, the travel and tourism industry will come back. It will be slightly different in terms of the air travel, but from an accommodation and experience perspective, we expect those to come back sooner. Now, as you look at this emergence of the digital economy, as it were, one of the areas that the travel and tourism industry needs to be aware of is the focus around managing the data and the transactions in a secure manner. And you'll see a growing trend around managing data privacy and also managing people's identity and authenticating them. And a key message here for the industry is to say, and look at these are not good statistics on this page. The industry needs to embrace and take on board new technologies that can help authenticate who a consumer is. Can be a combination of artificial intelligence using biometrics. We have technology at Mastercard that can track how a person uses a mobile phone, so you can combine that with different data elements to authenticate who the consumer is, and it's actually them before they transact. And then once someone's transacted, you need to keep that data secure, in some cases anonymized, in a secure manner. So from a travel and tourism perspective, whilst it's good to see digital channels grow, don't lose sight around making sure that that environment is managed securely. So in terms of an area that I look after in Mastercard is I look after B2B travel, where we use a virtual card. Now, a virtual card is just basically a digital version of a plastic card. So we're on a plastic card where you have your 16 digits. That's what a virtual card has. The difference is it's never printed on plastic. Now, pre-pandemic, we were seeing the use of virtual cards for paying for hotels, airlines, car hire, cruises. It was growing well. We had good, strong growth. We had more people moving to the merchant of record, whereby they're issuing these cards. We had airlines accepting it, albeit we did have some feedback initially in the early days, but that leveled out. And then we saw good growth in the hospitality industry for these virtual cards. However, one of the areas we did get consistent feedback on was people wanted more optionality and options in terms of what type of virtual card they would accept. So what we did is we designed 5 newer levels. So now in the marketplace, there's 6 different tiers, in a sense, price for the product. And this then allows the hotel, the airline, the car hire company to negotiate what VCN they will accept for what type of transaction. They were launched mid last year. And as it happened, that obviously was right in the middle of COVID, which was good, advantageous timing from our perspective. But we had listened to the industry before COVID. So that really provides more flexibility now with the virtual cards. And one of the benefits for virtual cards is it provides the issuing entity a line of credit. And so if you're a travel agent using and paying for services, you can use that virtual card to get access to a line of credit to pay for a hotel, pay for an airline. It also protects people. Once a hotel is authorized with a virtual card, they know they will get this guaranteed payment. If people go out of business, then the ecosystem will protect their constituent partners. And we have seen that through COVID, that legacy payment systems or models that are not based on card have ultimately failed and haven't protected players in the ecosystem. And as a result, what we're seeing now going forward is that people recognize that virtual cards become part of your acceptance strategy for payments. We're not saying everything, we're saying it's part of an integrated approach, but an important one. And we do see that as, again, linked to the digital channels, the ability to link a virtual card with a digital order helps things like reconciliation, simplifies your processing overheads, and just provides a more seamless experience. So as we look forward in terms of, specifically around hotels, some of the areas that we see are opportunities. Where hotels have co-brands, reviewing how they're packaged, what the consumer value proposition is an area we feel people should review. Again, from a VCN payments perspective, travel agents are growing the use of virtual cards, and we highly recommend the industry looking at accepting them. And as I said before, there's different levels. So the view that VCNs are more expensive than other payment methods is not correct. You've now got different tiers that you can choose what price you're willing to pay. And at a simple level, for high season you pay a lower rate, for low season you pay a higher rate, for high yield, low yield, those sort of things. And that's how you negotiate with your distribution partners. We're also seeing then, as people are moving more to a contactless environment, there's the opportunity for people to, in the hotel industry, look at your process flow for a consumer, from when they book, when they check in, when they use the restaurant, when they check out, and any post communication, and how you can use contactless across the board, whether it's for payment or leveraging QR codes for different services. So I think as the travel industry as a whole, the contactless travel concept is becoming more of a reality and some degree a necessity. And then finally, around digital acceptance, you're going to see, an increase in the use of biometrics. There's a lot of talk in the press at the moment around health passes that will be used to manage people's vaccine or test status. So ultimately, when someone checks into your hotel, not only will you need to know, you obviously want their payment information, you'll want to validate who they are, and then you'll also want to validate their health status before you let them into the hotel. So there's going to be, impacts and things that the hotel industry is going to look at. But at Mastercard especially, we're here to help and walk you through as you evaluate those different challenges. And that comes to the end of my slides.
Excellent, Chris. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for walking us through some really interesting topics and some really interesting insights that you shared. So appreciate that. I don't think I've used any cash since March. I don't know about you, but it seems like contactless and what is it? Cashless payments are the way to go, at least during this crisis.
No, I agree. I mean, I think we've seen. So we've been. I mean, in my market in the UK, they had a reasonably high usage of contactless, but I always use the experience that my local corner shop would never accept cards because it was seen as too expensive, not efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of any shop now near me that doesn't accept contactless payments. That shift has happened, and I think across other markets it's the same. I think people recognise it's just simple, it's easy. I actually don't go out of the house now with my wallet. I actually have everything on my phone. I'm using Apple Pay. I've got my cards in there. I've got my identity in there, and I think it's the way of the future. I think what I'm interested to see is how that evolves into the travel and tourism industry. Because the ability to take that digital device and then check in, both at an airline or even when I book into a hotel, and if it links in my loyalty card. So I think there's been a lot of talk about this. I think it's hard to say that, but if there are benefits of COVID, if that's the right word, it's accelerated the thoughts of how you go digital and how you remove friction points. And I think that's we're at the beginning of an exciting time in the travel and tourism industry as the use of digital channels, really pick up.
Well, let's stay there for a second. I've seen a few airports introduce a biometric, boarding, if you will. So at check-in, I think it's right now Dubai, San Francisco has a couple of gates. And if I'm not mistaken, Hong Kong, of course. Or Singapore, one of the two.
Yeah.
I don't exactly remember. But you check in, and then at the gate, it's basically a camera that identifies you, and you're through to the plane. Nobody touches your passport more than once. Nobody looks at your boarding pass. It's really a biometric experience from the moment you leave the check-in gate, if you will. In your mind, how soon until we go to biometric payments? Like, at what point, you already have all your information on your phone, but at what point do I pay with my face?
Well, we do have, there are examples today with biometrics where you can authenticate a transaction. Today, you either use your thumbprint or you double click and look, you look at Apple Pay, that is using biometrics to authenticate who you are. Yeah. So you're going to see more and more of that. It's also linked to biometrics where, as I said in my presentation, we have the capability now to monitor how you hold the phone. Mm-hmm. No two people use the phone the same way. So you can actually take a facial expression and what have you. You can then overlay it with, is that person actually the person using their phone? Mm-hmm. And you can so you're right. So the concept of using biometrics to really authenticate who you are is definitely the way this is going to move forward. And even down to the point of you can check your heart rate, and I don't know the exact term around the way your blood flows and everything else, and you can get a sort of digital view of who you are, and bring that all together. So biometrics is here, and you're right, in the travel environment, the ability, it's obviously a key security requirement. Yeah. Authenticate. So this will be coming. Yes.
That's excellent. Where are you traveling first? What's your first trip? Where are you going?
My first trip is, I actually have a weekend booked away in Amsterdam for a delayed weekend away with my wife. And I have a number of trips lined up in July and August, which I am determined to use. So I have to say, I don't miss as much corporate travel. I think I'm going to get the right balance in my life now. But on a personal leisure perspective, I can't wait to get on a plane or get in the car and drive somewhere. So, and I think that is the trend everyone's hearing. So the good news for the industry, the demand is there, right? It's just how we get that unlocked in the right time. And as long as you don't have any more shocks on the vaccine, the discretionary spend is there to be used, and we should come back hopefully strongly in the second half.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you.